If you're working harder than everyone else, but you're noticing you're not getting promoted, there's a chance you're doing something's wrong. And I don't mean this in a harsh way. It's more like a practical, like a frustrating kind of way because I went through it. A lot of high performing people are doing exactly what they thought would work. They were taught to do that, but then they're realizing that it doesn't actually translate to growth, to actual money in your pocket. So in this video, I want to walk you through, it feels a little bit like a counterintuitive strategy, but ultimately it can change the way that you're seen or perceived at work. And this means that it will directly impact how fast you get promoted and ultimately how much you get paid. You may have been in a situation similar to mine where I fought tooth and nail to get a raise after having worked crazy hours, crazy amounts, one of my best years really. Um, and in my performance review, I was given the usual, like, oh, the company is so grateful for you. You've been doing a great job. Your score is high and you did great. And when it came time to talk about how this would translate to compensation, it ultimately ended up being, I think, like an extra $60 in my pocket every paycheck. And don't get me wrong, $60 is $60 in this economy, but I personally didn't feel like it was representative of the amount of work that I was putting in, the amount of energy, the amount of health that I was putting into the job. At that point in time, I even thought to myself, well, no, I take your $60 back. I want to have mm, take the late nights back, all the missed birthdays, all the stress that I went through, the health trade-offs that are a whole other video. I would have rather had all that time, all that energy, and all that health back, you know? If you're in a similar situation or you've ever been in a situation like that I went through, you might be thinking to yourself, what am I doing wrong? Clearly, all my effort and everything I'm doing, it's just not adding up. It's not translating in the way that I thought it would. One thing that most people would think is, well, this has to do with budget. But to put it plainly, it's not, because you're seeing all these other people around you get promoted. Clearly, there is budget, just not for you, right? The thing is, with decision makers, they're not there to see your work day in, day out. They see summaries, they see outcomes, they see the narratives, very high level. They're not going to be there in your late nights. Your boss is not going to know everything as much as they would like to. They're not the ones tracking your effort. Most of the time, it's not even their fault. They just don't have the time to track that much detail for every single team member. You're going to have to get used to the thought that being the backbone of your company, the backbone of your department, while yes, it does keep you employed, disclaimer that I can get into in another video, that not always. Yes, being the backbone of your department could keep you employed, but it is not going to get you promoted. It's not going to make you shine. Doing the grunt work, day to day, invisible work is just not. It's not going to get you promoted. The biggest shift is going to be working in a way where instead of thinking, oh, I need to optimize my day for making sure that I complete every single thing on my list, unfortunately, this is not going to do the job. You have to start prioritizing the items on your to-do list that are going to make you the most visible to those that are the decision makers. Prioritize the things that are going to get you seen, that are going to get the outcome for the company, for the department, for the budget for the year, so on and so forth. Have that visible impact mindset as you're starting your day and prioritizing for your day. Your job is not just to do the work, it's to make sure the right people understand the impact of the work. Now, if you're anything like me, you can relate to what working hard means. So it could look like staying late or covering for other people, covering gaps, helping everybody, just making sure things keep running. To you, it might feel like, I'm doing my part, but it fails every single time simply because it's such low visibility. The way that promoted people work differently is when they're given task, a list of tasks to do, they will always prioritize the most visible work, knowing that if they don't get the less visible things done, it's gonna be fine because there's not a lot of people asking questions. So that's one. The other thing is they are very, very attached to outcomes, very attached to being credited for the outcome that they helped achieve. They communicate it to the point where it's annoying and you're like, why are you over communicating? We all know you did it. They're smart. They're so smart because a year later, when it's time for your review, of course, no one's going to remember what you did unless you communicated it annoyingly or tracked it or any sort of way. So you might judge your coworkers that over communicate, but it's unfortunately what gets you promoted. I think you'll agree when you kind of reflect back to your coworkers that have gotten promoted. It's not even that they work any harder necessarily. They're just working in a way that gets them recognized for the work they're already doing. Same with you. The work that you're already doing anyways, you just have to work on communicating it so you get more recognized. A big reason for this channel, I would say, is I want all of my mistakes to not be in vain. It would be nice if good came out of it. So I'll share a story that relates to this. So there was a time where I was in a department of two people. So it was my boss and two people. One of these people, the other person that was in the department aside from me left. They, went on to other things. They left the company. So when this happened, I, being the hard worker and the reliable, whatever employee, I stepped in and I made up for any gaps that he left behind. I took ownership for things that were not on my plate. They were never formally assigned to me. It was more like I knew it had to be done to keep the department running. And it just meant that I was so busy, so busy. And I still had everything else on my plate, all the different projects that were visible, extremely visible. And they were just not getting done because I was so busy covering to make sure the department kept running. And I will say at the time, it did feel like this was the right thing to do. Um, I just felt like I didn't know any better. So I have to forgive myself for that. So what would happen is I would get asked, about my high visibility projects that were still due. And I would just not have a good answer, obviously. Or I should rephrase. My answer would be no, I've been busy covering XYZ. But for whatever reason, it was still not a good enough answer. It was never okay to be behind on the highly visible projects. And it just made me realize I should have prioritized the work that makes me crazy visible because that's the work that people are going to keep asking about. And if the other work that got left behind because this person left, it wasn't my responsibility to take over. You live and you learn. So you should learn from me. So the consequence that happened is I would continue to lose the higher visibility work and I would continue to get all the work that would be more of a supporting role that would keep me so busy but just have no time for like higher skilled projects that I could grow in, right? And so all this was happening. I was too busy to pause and consider things. I was making myself valuable, but I was not making myself promotable. I was making myself valuable, but I was not making myself promotable. And so that's what I kind of want to emphasize today. Learn from me. This is not the path to getting promoted. All right. we're going to start tracking everything that you do. Say that it's something that you say, I can't just drop it. There's no one else to do it. My boss said I have to do it. Fine. Do it, but track it. So tracking matters so much because what is that saying? Or I thought it was like, people say, oh, pictures or it didn't happen or whatever. Like you can think of it that way, like tracking or it didn't happen. It feels like it's a waste of time, but we have to reframe this and say, no, I need to spend the time for me. I'm going to spend the time to track everything that I'm doing so that I can go back and reference it later when they ask me, where is your time gone? Don't overcomplicate it. Don't over explain. Come up with a very simple way. It doesn't even have to be fancy. You don't have to use like Notion or project or anything like that. You could do a simple email, a simple Excel, Word document, whatever. Pick your poison. What I would do was on Mondays, I would review whatever I finished the prior week. So the wins, the accomplishments, the impact. You can make it, at one point I will say I was overcomplicating it. You can look up templates for what to track. You can track hours, you can track, come up with metrics like money saved, time saved, whatever. But if you're just so busy you can't even do all that fancy thing, at least make a list of the things that you finished and whoever you helped, who requested it, all that. So Monday, review the wins for the previous week. Then I do this Monday morning as soon as you get in, because then the week gets crazy. So you jot it down in an email, whatever, make your notes. Then you make a list for this week. These are the top 3 priorities or the top 5 priorities. This is my focus. And then I would put a timer, I would put a limit. Oh, I was gonna say an hour, but that seems like so much. Okay, for the tryhards, I would say limit yourself to an hour, but if you're and try to work towards 20 to 30 minutes max. And I know it's hard because I mean I've done it, and it's just give yourself grace. It's not gonna be easy the first time. Okay, so Monday review, first thing you come in, previous wins from the week prior, your focus for this week. This is the key part. Send the freaking email. Send it out. Send it out to your boss and stakeholders, people, your dotted line bosses, right? Anyone that would have a say or would be able to vouch for you when the promotion time comes around. Just remember, if you don't track it, you can't communicate it. You don't track it, it didn't happen. Another helpful way that you can help get promoted faster is, I know you're going to hate that I say it, but getting comfortable with speaking with people that are in power. I know this is easier said than done. A lot of it can be intimidating, but just remember intimidation is normal, but they're not any different from us that are starting out. They have just been working longer and have seen a lot, right? And there's a chance you could work towards being in their position one day. And that's it. They're human too. They'll tell you that themselves. Try not to avoid it. Try not to avoid them. Try not to act too shy. You can do this very simply when you first start your job. You can say hi, introduce yourself politely, very, keep it normal. And as the days progress, you can start to build a lot more connection, familiarity, um, and you could eventually work up the connection, work up the courage to ask them for some time on their calendar. And the reason I push this a lot, especially in this video, which is about getting promoted faster, is just the way the game is. Companies run on systems, but at the end of the day, the systems are run by people. They're run by humans. Humans are more likely to promote people that they're familiar with, that they can relate to, that they have connection to, that they can vouch for. Don't approach it in a way where you're almost coming off manipulative, because that's going to be really obvious. It has to be genuine, authentic, curiosity, genuine questions. You're not trying to brown nose them just to get clout or whatever. You have to make sure you're coming across in a genuine way, that you're just trying to get to know them in a professional manner, build professional relationships. That's it. This is going to help you in the long run. the final point, how to get promoted faster. Start speaking up in rooms where stakeholders and people in power are making the big decisions. I'll tell a little bit of my experience over the years. I would tend to be more on the listening side, the type that observes and kind of sees issues for what they are, trying to figure out, trying to even just keep up, right? And understand what exactly was going on. Well, over time, I was noticing that I would be listening to these critical conversations, these business decisions, and I would have certain thoughts where I would think, oh, wait, what about this, this, and that? And then I would like almost immediately dismiss myself. Well, I'm sure they thought about that already. Who am I to say? Who am I to? And then next thing you know, the next guy over would ask the exact thing I was thinking. And all of a sudden, the whole room would shift and be like, whoa, we didn't think about that. And I'm like, I thought of it first. Why didn't I ask it? And this happened more than once. Again, I have to work on forgiving myself. But that's why I want people to learn from me. If you're thinking it, say it. Worst case scenario, they explain it. I bet you there's at least one other person that had the same question. And just all you have to remember is you're staying curious, you're asking your question, just say it respectfully. You don't need to come off overly confident or overly like a know-it-all or whatever. Just say it with curiosity. You don't need to dominate. And that's it. Just speak up. And the more you speak up, you'll start to feel a lot more comfortable in the meetings, and it'll soon feel like second nature. Just in the beginning, it's a little hard. So there's one part that people don't really say out loud. It's kind of implied. Promotions don't happen at the time you think. A lot of them are decided extremely early, like 6 months to a year in advance. And it's not just about performance or whether the work was completed. Most of it has to do with perception and trust. Whatever relationships, connections that you built with people, people feel like they can trust you to represent the company in this promotion, really. Oh, that's another thing. We have to remember that these promotions, and I don't know if it happens in a lot of companies. I feel like I've heard at least a lot of my friends talk about it. The promotions will get announced, right? Everyone's gonna know which person got promoted. So you can think of it in a way where the company's choosing who's going to represent the best of the best, right? So the company cares about perception, the company cares about who gets along with people. They're choosing their representative. They're, what is it when people are brand ambassadors or whatever for your local branch or whatnot. So when you kind of think of it this way, that they care about perception and that they are decided very early on, you're gonna have to start to realize, oh, hold on, I'm being evaluated even when I'm not aware of it. It's in the small moments when I maintain composure in a certain difficult situation. Is how I show up socially. It's how I come off in meetings when I present. How do my messages land, right? So it's a lot of just remembering that the way you are perceived, unfortunately, is going to affect a lot of the time when you're promoted. It's I would say it's 50% the work you got done, and then 50% how you're perceived, who you connected with, so on and so forth. So if promotion is your goal, is your one goal, you really need to understand how your company promotes. You really reflect on who's gotten promoted in the last year. Observe how they speak, their mannerisms, what ways they're moving, their composure, and just if your goal is to get promoted and stay in that company, then mirror whatever they're doing. I would even say try and work with these people so that you can learn from them really. Not getting promoted is not a sign that you're a bad worker or bad at your job or bad with people. It's just a sign that there could be more clarity in how that process works in your workplace specifically. And it's better to just have clarity rather than just frustration, keep questioning it and keep complaining to people. Instead, try and reflect in a little bit of the things that I mentioned in this video, and hopefully you'll start to see, what your options are. What is the best thing for me? Um, if this video made you think, pause, reflect, make sure to follow along. I'll be covering other topics that may be of interest, especially the kind of topic that is not necessarily talked about often. At least not in my experience. A lot of these are more like nuanced and unspoken. I had to learn with time.